introduction. Today we're going to have Steve, what's your last name again?
Bags.
Steve Bags. We're going to talk about his time as a farmer and basically his all around life and see how it goes with that. So, Steve, tell us about farming and how horrible it was. Because I had a friend of mine that when I went down to Dallas for a honor flight, he's a rancher, and he's telling me all the horror stories that he had to deal with farming.
Well, I mean, there's some bad aspects to it, yeah, but there's a lot of good. The bad aspects is you get paid 3-4 times a year, kind of depending on every time you take a load of cows to market, every time you harvest, and that's pretty much it.
So basically, you did what's the difference between ranching and farming? Because I mean, you had both. You had to work on the land.
Yeah.
And then you had cows.
Yeah.
Why is there a big difference? Like saying, "Hey, I'm a farmer. Hey, I'm a rancher."
Well, the big difference is in farming, you raise crops. Because my father and I, we raised wheat, Sudan, cotton, soybeans, and alfalfa. All right.
Okay.
Ranchers don't really do that. They focus more on the cattle.
Okay.
Right?
So you basically did both.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the profit margins on that usually?
That's very damn slim.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you got to have at least minimum 5,000 acres.
Good Lord.
Just for this area though, because if you go, say, east, the farms get smaller, but that's only because the
yield.
Yeah, the soil is a lot better. And around here we get this hard packed clay, which is
yeah. My mom used to work on a garden here. The only area that we could grow anything like violently is where we had the hogs, and when we got rid of them, and that whole area was just nutrients.
Yeah.
See, a lot of that comes back to what I've tried telling other people about my position on minimum wage.
Yeah.
And they're like, wouldn't you support it if minimum wage got raised to, blah, blah, blah? No, I wouldn't. I said, well, why? I says, well, when you think about it, every time you watch throughout history where they sit here and says, oh, we're going to increment minimum wage and we're going to raise minimum wage, and what ends up happening is your upper class come down toward the lower class, and the lower class stay put. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that your farmers, they can only produce X amount, and that amount has to sell for X amount in a lot of degrees.
Well, the yields of the crops, corn, soybeans, and wheat, have grown so much that because the scientists have found ways to actually come up with new strains of corn, soybeans, and wheat, and they can actually modify it for the environment.
Yeah. Okay. You're talking about genetic modifications of the.
But that's not anything new, realistically speaking. I mean.
No, we've been doing that for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just we're accelerating it in the lab versus.
Well, that's another thing is a lot of people are anti.
HMO?
Yeah, GMO.
Or GMO.
Yeah.
GMO. They're anti-GMO, but we've been, like y'all said, we've been doing this for thousands of years.
We've been genetically modifying our
crops. Look at dogs.
Through crossbreeding.
The thing about GMOs is, if you look at what we've done for our food crops, that was taking an aspect of one plant and another plant and.
Oh, you mean like the grapes that taste like oranges, or?
Yeah,
oranges
but
taste like grape?
But realistically, we were still doing that because you can take certain species of plants that will crossbreed.
But not on a molecular level, because what we have now with the GMOs is they're taking aspects of insects and animals and combining that with food. That's why people are so against the GMOs, because they're eating a it's not pure food.
But you know, I can understand where you're coming from on that one. But what I'm saying is you take different species of plants.
Yeah.
You have certain plants that will breed with any other plant.
Yeah.
And the way we've been actually making before, you know, we started fiddling with it on a direct molecular level
Yeah.
in the lab, or moreover on a genome sequencing level where we're talking about the RNA and the DNA of the specifics. We were still modifying that RNA and DNA by taking and saying, okay, we want this plant, we want these traits from this plant, so we're going to breed it with this plant over here until we get something in between the two off of this plant, and then we're going to breed this plant with the one we want to modify.
But if that was beneficial, this GMO, it's not, because it's introducing a lot of mutations to the crops that are having adverse effects on us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you look at, say, gluten, the gluten allergy has skyrocketed in the last, 30 years. When I was a kid, we didn't have gluten.
Yeah, we didn't have
You know,
gluten
stuff like
allergies.
that.
I mean,
But I hate to say, can we really blame that on the genetically modified stuff, though?
do they even have a reason why that's... I mean, what makes it a gluten allergy isn't what anybody says that it makes it a gluten allergy. There's a lot of people that say, oh, I can't do gluten because...
Yeah, it's a fad.
That part is a fad, but I've known actual people that have gluten allergies to the point where if they have anything with gluten in it, they shit themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this comedian, I forget her name, but she has a gluten allergy, and she really wanted this sandwich. She's talking about it on one of her podcasts. She's like, I really wanted that sandwich, but I knew I had a lot of gluten in it. As soon as she ate that sandwich, she had to go right to her bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
I'd say it's kind of like peanut allergies, too. I mean...
Yeah. I think
I've met some people that could not even be in the same room as an open jar of peanut butter. Their allergies were so bad.
Yeah. Well, me personally, I think that stems from the vaccinations that we're forced to take as kids, because we're all in our early 40s, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if you look at the list of vaccines that we had to take as a kid versus what they have to take now, and if you look at the rate of autism, the food allergies, I mean, there is a direct correlation.
It sounds like it is correlation, but they've actually scientifically proven that vaccines are not caused of autism.
Who actually sponsored that?
Yeah, that's kind of true too. I would have to go in a little bit more depth on the research on that to find out where it was. But I've read a couple of articles that just said,
yeah.
Realistically speaking,
and also, autism really has always been there.
Yeah.
And it's been there before even vaccinations and everything else.
That's what I was fixing to say. Is I really don't think it's a matter of
we just now been able to document. Oh, this kid has this. He has autism.
I don't think it was a matter of autism rates have increased because of vaccinations. I think it's a matter of our medical science has increased enough to the point that we can identify what the signs of it are. Because you take somebody like Einstein, there are people who want to say that Einstein might have been autistic.
Hell, Tesla might have been autistic too. So.
Yeah.
And you can't really say that autism is a bad thing because they're just using their brain a different way than we are. And a lot of those very autistic people, they've been brilliant in their own ways.
Yeah.
They've come up with things that the average person, they're going to look at it and say, I'm not a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Oh, we're trying to get people to start doing a drinking game.
Yeah.
So what you're doing right now, I kept on constantly doing it, saying yeah. So I was listening to the last episode when we did it with Jason when we had a third. I kept on every time he would say something. Yeah. I mean, that motherfucker that's listening and made a drinking game is probably in a hospital. I destroyed that man's kidney.
Probably.
But what's the day to day on farming? I mean, a lot of people want to say it's like you get up before dawn, and leave when the sun sets, type of work, or
Well, it can be. It really depends on the season. Like right now, what I would be doing is getting up a little bit before dawn and go feed my cattle. And during the height of well, the most amount of acres that I farmed personally was 1,120.
okay, that's relatively small for around here.
Yeah, but it was in quarter section plots, which is if you take a square mile, which is it's 1 mile this way, 1 mile that way. If you cut it into 4 sections, that's a quarter section. Well, I had 7 of them,
Okay.
and they were spread all over Cotton County from pretty much the Red River to the northern part of Cotton County.
Okay.
And going to feed cattle, it would literally take all week because I had to drive so much with one round bale or 2 at a time. And but
So you kept the cattle in your farmland separate. I was just wondering.
well, sometimes what a lot of farmers do is they graze their wheat out, right? And it actually hurts the wheat, but not so much as the bugs will do to it, and it's very beneficial to the cattle or to the calves because what my father and I did, we had a cow calf operation, and that's kind of on the minority for this area because what a lot of farmers do is they have either a stocker operation or I can't think of a stocker operation or a feeder calf operation.
Okay.
Where it's either all steers or all heifers, and they can make a contract with the buyer. Say these calves will gain, say 2 pounds per day for so many days, and the average weight should be this, and they'll take them to the market. They'll weigh them, and if they quote make their weight, they get a bonus. Or they can make a profit.
Okay. On something like that though, if the cattle is above, you make
Yeah, you make more. Yeah,
you make more money.
yeah, and
But okay, is there a big difference between if it's actually meat or fat? I mean, is there any way you could actually? I mean, I don't even think you can tell unless you
No.
like rip it off.
no, but there's a lot of money to be made in the stocker and feeder operations, but you can also lose your ass because
I mean, it's a big gamble, huh?
yeah, when I was probably 2 or 3, my father bought 115 Holstein heifers, right? This over at the War Eagle Livestock Auction, and he had an offer, which he tells me now that he should have taken, that a buyer come up to him and said, "I will pay you 50 cents more per pound than what you paid for them because I've got to have 115 Holstein heifers." And my father said, "No, I'm going to keep them." Well, so he takes them back to the house. He starts feeding them, and they start gaining weight. And the market kept going up and up and up. And every week he said, "Well, I'm going to keep them for 1 more week."
Oh,
I'm
okay.
keeping
I see
one
what
more
he's
egg.
doing.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, boom, the market tanked. And he sold them things for 15 cents a pound. Yeah.
Damn.
Now, 150 years ago, that's pretty good money.
Yeah.
35, it's not. That ain't worth much.
No.
And he never ran stockers ever again. I've never personally ran them. So, but I'd say in probably April or so, May, I would start getting ready for a harvest. And as a kid, we would harvest our own wheat, and we partner with my uncle and my grandfather on my father's side. We'd all get together and do basic maintenance on the combines and the trucks, and that would take probably about a month because I was still a kid. My grandpa was not in very good health. My uncle was halfway drunk all the time, and my dad was a full-time teacher. So, but when I was in high school, we had custom harvesters, and but from 2005 to 2015, I farmed full time, and what I would do is about like May or April, somewhere in there, start getting all the tractors ready. I would change the 18-inch sweeps, take those off, and I'd put what we call duck feet. They're sweeps they're about 8 inches across, and change oil, do just basic service on the tractor, and it'd take a few days.
Now, on when you had cow with doing both cattle and the farm, was getting the fertilizers easy for you because you already had the cattle? Did you implement that?
Well, we would go to the co-op over in Walters and buy fertilizer, and they would come out there and spread it for us. But that was right before we would sow the wheat, and we'd have to plow it up or plow it in that same day.
Okay, so you didn't implement any of the cattle's actual manure?
No. If you go around here and if you look at the wheat that has that's been grazed out, you'll see spots about this big that are darker, greener, and they're about at least twice as tall as the wheat that's been grazed out. That's where the cows have shit.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
well, like I said, when my uncle ended up surprising my mom with a potbelly pig.
Yeah.
And this is in town. We just had to keep it up back. We made a fence and everything. And after, I think we had those pigs for about 2 years. And after 2 years came around, we got rid of the pigs. No, probably about a year. Because that soil was so enriched.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could grow anything there.
Yeah, it's over there.
So, how many? Well, say for you as for an example, but how many other farmers that you know of would partially or completely live off the grid, as they say? Provide their own electricity, provide their own water.
Very few. During my grandparents' time, you could do that, kind of, but you really couldn't provide your own power because we didn't have the infrastructure, and we still don't really, unless you spend over $1 million for the solar panels and wind.
Well, most people nowadays that even own farms, even if it's vast, I mean, it has to be like super vast. Actually, have jobs. I mean, when I was working corrections, George Stutton.
There was at least 6 people there that ran farms that worked right with us.
Yeah, they had their own farms and everything. And most of the time, the reason why they worked up at the prison was because they had that 4 days off so they can work on their farm.
Yeah.
But the whole reason I was asking is because you occasionally run across somebody saying, well, if you've got cows, you can make your own methane, and if you can make your own methane, you can run your own generators and water wells and blah blah yada yada. So I figured I'd make it kind of a point to mention that those are not as viable of an option as a lot of people try to make them out to be. Even though yes, they are available, it takes a lot of work and effort into those things to make them start to even want to become viable.
Yeah, well, like with my parents and my grandparents, they all had their own wells from well water, but in order to power it, they had to have 5+ years ago you could, but I mean, I've always.
Well, no. Well, even back then, what would end up happening, and I learned this. I actually learned something in school. What is happening is people, once they see one windmill,
Yeah.
they put a windmill like over by it and start siphoning the actual water, and ended up causing a big drought in some cases.
Yeah, I can. With the the Ogallala Aquifer that's in the panhandle of Texas and goes up to, I believe, past Nebraska. The people up there use the center pivot irrigation, and if you have seen pictures of that area of the farms, and there's
No, we drove through them. They're horrible.
yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful land.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. There's hills and everything, but the stretch of highway we would have to go on is a 2-lane highway, and half the time there's farm vehicles, and we're supposed to be like 60 miles an hour, and we're only going like probably 5.
Well,
It's beautiful land. It's just it's one of those.
You can say it's beautiful land, in my opinion, when you could look out and as far as you can see, for as far as you can see is nothing but seas of what appears to be grass.
It's probably corn, but yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm not saying what it is. I'm just saying, when you look out and you've got green stuff no taller than this for as far as the eye can see, I can't really say I think that's all that pretty.
Well, it kind of depends on your background. I mean,
First couple of times it was beautiful. Last 10 years it's been monotonous.
yeah, but I'll tell you one thing: if I could make as much money farming as I do at where I work, I'd farm full time.
Oh yeah. A lot of people do it, but they also do like other. They do things that are coincide to what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's like what we're doing right now. This business actually coincides with actually marketing our own stuff. That's the reason why we're going to start doing t-shirts. Hopefully next week we'll get started because all of our stuff is coming up. But it's what you're doing as a hobby, and it turns out working out for you. I mean, even saying Joe Rogan, who is doing really well. He started about 10 years ago on just doing podcasts and doing video, and just a bunch of his friends fucking around. Anyways, right now, I mean, he gets probably about 75,000 an episode.
Damn.
And he puts on like 4 or 5 episodes a day. Yeah. But it's all depending on if we can make sales off of teachers, because we can do whatever we want on there within reason. I mean, unless we want to switch over to Pornhub, that's the whole idea. I literally had this whole idea. It was gonna be awesome. We were gonna have a chick like just masturbating on the table while we do interviews, and we just put it on Pornhub and see if we could get lots of views and money off of that one. I shut that down. Because knowing myself, I wouldn't get I switch off. He would have been fine. Now, if we do it to where, someone's working on a circuit board, yeah, he would be totally off. Me, it's the regular guy thing that works against me. I was like, dude, the person's asking you a question about fucking what, man? Jeez, I'm enthralled in this show that we're watching. This is a bad idea, Dave. Maybe it was. Most definitely. I'm not gonna.
Well, that's like, and he's right. And he's not the only one to say it. I do have that bad tendency that anything that I find educational really does just sucks me in. I'll spend hours researching.
Yeah.
But it's just one will connect to one and the other one. I mean, right now we have to get our social media up, and that's more. And a lot of people don't understand they think they understand certain things. It's like, oh, all you have to do is this. With farming, it's you're really just wrestling Mother Nature.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah, it's a little bit more complicated.
I was explaining to somebody else when they asked me about hydroponics, and I says, I could build your hydroponics setup. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is you're going to have to get the chemical tests so that you can maintain the pH balance of the water. You're going to have to get the mineral tests so that you can maintain the mineral contents of the water. And then you're going to need to know what pH and what mineral content the plants you want to grow require.
Yeah. Yeah, farming is a little bit more complicated than what Mike Bloomberg makes it out to be.
He's not.
He's an idiot.
Yeah. But that's a good question. Do you actually have to check the soil every once in a while to see if it has the right?
Yes.
How do you do that?
You usually call Oklahoma State University and they'll send a scientist out. Or
you just don't collect the soil and just send it to them?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
But there's some farmers that are part of a test program. Well, they'll take an area about as big as this room and have a strip about this wide for a certain variety of wheat, and go over about 3 inches and have another variety.
I remember seeing those when I was a kid. Auburn University used to do that around the area where I lived.
Yeah.
And theirs was cotton and corn.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you'd see them plant like a strip of cotton no wider than this with the boll weevil traps on either side and then a strip of corn right next to it.
Yeah. But you can change the pH levels of lime. You know, we've done that before. Just call the co-op, say I need some lime. Can you come out here and spread it for me? Oh. And it's a white powder, and it's best not to do it on a windy day, which around here is very rare.
It's also best not to get it on your skin when you're sweating.
Yeah. I've seen Fight Club. Yes, I know.
But what a lot of people do is they use anhydrous ammonia. They use anhydrous ammonia for fertilizer, and that stuff is pretty dangerous.
Well, there's this one fertilizer that's down in Mexico they use a lot of now, and they're having problems with it running off because they're using it for their pot farming.
Yeah.
And what it was is this is the only way they found out they were doing it, is they were in rural areas, and this poison for trying to best describe it. The best way to describe it is if you got a little bit on you that's on the plants, like you're removing it or something like that without any gloves, you would be in the hospital for a week. That's how bad this poison was. And what they're doing is they're bringing it up, and they're using on their farm, on their pot farms, and they're not carrying on where the water comes from and everything. They're really destroying the environment. I'll put in a description who the ranger is, and it was an episode of Joe Rogan I heard all about this. A lot of people aren't listening to the game wardens, and that's who did all that, because they go in and they do like 2,000 acres of land for one person.
Yeah.
But with that poison, that's what it's so toxic. It gets rid of and doesn't kill the plant. It gets rid of the bugs and everything, but it gets rid of everything else too.
Y'all remember the late 80s, early 90s when they started outlawing the production of soaps with phosphates in them?
Yeah.
Because the phosphates are a form of accelerant for plant growth.
Yeah.
And what was happening was that it was leaching into the groundwater, and it was leaching into the water tables as it was making its way out to the ocean. It was causing algae blooms that were literally occupying large areas of the ocean, and that was in turn killing the fish. So they were having like massive clumps of green mass material and dead fish washing up on the beaches.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, farming is a good lifestyle, but
It's not sustainable nowadays unless you have
Well,
unless you have like the right environment,
Yeah.
like going in Nebraska, Kansas, and,
Yeah, they've
and
got
that
that-
area over there.
they've got a lot better soil than we have down here.
Yeah. Here, I can't. Most of the you'll have to go in for like a good 7 feet to get out of the clay.
Yeah.
And when my mom was doing, we had to do. This is how we had to do our garden and all of her plants. Is we make a 2-foot hole basically where we wanted to plant everything.
Yeah.
And we dig up all that for the flowers or whatever we were to do for the garden. And then we had to put viable topsoil,
Yeah.
auctionated topsoil, put that in there, and you can literally see where it ends and begins.
Yeah.
Because weeds were growing into the clay and everything, but everything else would flourish. And it took us a good month and a half to get all that stuff set up.
Yeah.
But yeah, here it's ridiculous how much clay we have.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have enough. If we just wanted to do pots and everything, it'd be
Well,
great.
and not saying I know about any of this at all, but I have heard that the clay soil could actually be used to your advantage if what you do is you basically strip out a massive amount of it and you set it off to the side, and then you strip out the next layer under that, and then you put the clay soil back, and you take the soil that you pulled out from under the clay soil and you mix that with a fertilizer, in essence making a basin that can hold water lower.
Yeah, well, if you're a multi-billionaire, you could do that, but there's no farmers that would ever do anything.
Yeah, that takes a long.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Well,
it took,
I'm not
'cause-
saying I
'cause we
know
did-
anything about it. I'm just saying I've
that's
heard
that's
about
more
things
or
like
less
that.
what we did.
Yeah.
That's more or less what we did. And
On a small scale like that, it could work, but on
a big scale,
10,000 acres, no.
you're looking at probably about. I mean, it took us a month just to do that, and it was just small sections around the house.
Yeah.
What you got to understand is you're looking at probably like mining,
Yeah, strip
basically
mining.
strip mining,
Yeah, pretty much.
and that takes probably about 2 to 3 years just to get it the way that you're talking about.
Now the big corporate farms, if they want to do something like that, they can afford it.
Oh yeah,
Because they got multi-billions of dollars. But the local farmers from East Coast to the West Coast, they don't have that kind of money.
Well-
Because most of their money is tied up in the land, their animals, and their equipment.
And I believe all of that. I was just bringing up something that I had heard about. Not
oh yeah.
necessarily
No,
that-
it's a great idea. It's a wonderful idea. It'll work. But if
Not
you're
on
looking
that
at
scale.
look at it this way. If we went in and we bought $1,000 worth of acres, which is probably about what? How many? Nowadays it's probably
A
really
half acre.
Pretty close. About 2 acres,
2 acres.
maybe. Acre and a half, really.
It would take us to do all that with the dredge, getting it all set up and everything. I'm probably guessing, if you're doing it constantly, probably about 3 months. And in those 3 months, you're not making 1 cent because
No.
you're doing that.
Yeah.
And here's another question. It says in comparison.
You're actually wasting a lot of money hoping that this works out.
in comparison to trying to go that route there. What about the route that I've also heard them speaking of, where instead of trying to just farm the land itself, you build massive greenhouses and you either set it up where you're putting the soil
That's
inside,
that's another thing. With
or you're
the
using
cost.
hydroponics.
Yeah.
That's another
Well-
thing with going with cost, though.
Yeah.
If you can, I mean, technically, you can do it with PCP pipe, and most places are actually just using PVC pipe.
That's
But
what
the problem is buying all that.
That's what a lot of the corporate farms do.
Yeah.
They are big into the hydroponics.
Yeah, because once you get it all set up, it's easy to clean. You don't have to worry about the soil being tarnished in any way because you're controlling that. Well, you still have to worry about drought in a way to where when you're getting your water.
Well, if you got
do it in a way to where you're recycling your water.
Yeah.
Even still,
That would be
drought would be a small factor.
Yeah.
It would still be a factor a little bit, but it wouldn't be as bad as an actual farmer.
Yeah, because the drought that we had here from 2010 when it broke in 2015 it was a good swift kick in the teeth, big time.
Oh, I bet.
Because my dad and I think we averaged about, the best we had was I think 17 bushels an acre of wheat, which is pitiful.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I quit farming, my father and I retired from it in 2015, is in 2004 or late 14, early 15, the drought was starting to break, and we got to rain the right amount at the right time every single time. And I'm thinking, fantastic, this is gonna be the best crop we've had in 30 years. Well, we got one big rain. It was a storm, really. We got hail, high winds, and torrential downpour, and we went from, say, 55 bushels an acre wheat, which is phenomenal, to probably 12, like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because there are certain varieties of wheat that if they're subjected to high winds and hail or a ton of rain like we got, the stalk will break over to ground and just lay over. Yeah, and it kind of looks like those man-made.
Is there no way to fix that?
They can modify the DNA, but it looked like what those man-made crop circles did.
Yeah. I was about to say something about that.
Because it's just plant on plant in one direction.
Did y'all tend to use the types of plants that reseed themselves, or did you have to buy new seed stock every year?
We had to buy it. Well, if wanted to use the same variety of wheat for say 3-4 years, we would tell the custom harvesters, go put so many bushels in over here in our grain bin. I would tell them, sell this many bushels of wheat to the co-op, but save this much, and I'm going to put it in my grain bins with auger. Then about a month, or about 2 weeks before we started to sow the wheat, we would auger it back out, go over to the co-op, and have them clean it real good. Get rid of all the oats, the milo. I mean, everything that's not pure wheat, it will be gotten rid of, and that way we'd plant nothing but pure wheat.
Okay, so you didn't have to worry about. You'd just send all this stuff to get like bleached if you wanted to make it flour or whatnot, or.
I don't know about that because we never made flour. We just sold it to the co-op.
Oh.
And what they do to it, it's that they sell it to the bread or to someone else, and that's where you get bread and pasta and all that stuff. But if we wanted to say change varieties, we would have to buy the seed wheat, and I think the most we paid during the drought was $12 a bushel, and we use I think 350 bushels, and we could sow everything. Yeah, so there's not much profit margin.
Oh no. But when you actually ended your farming and everything, how much of a profit were you able to get?
None. No. Because see, the most I ever farmed as a kid was probably 3,000 acres. That's a guess because I don't really know for sure. But from 05 to 15, I had 1,120 acres, and my father only owned 2 1/4 sections. When my grandmother died on the mother's side, her 2 sons sold her 2 places, so we lost a half section and 2 herds of cattle, like that. Then my dad's older sister died. Her husband sold her place that was inherited from her father. So we lost another quarter section. Then a few years later, my dad's other sister, her second husband, got into legal trouble out in Arizona with with some fraudulent documents that he signed like a moron, and she sold her place that she got from her dad, and she dipped into her savings. So we went from 1,120 acres to 480 acres, like that, almost overnight.
Damn.
Yeah, we had the place where my parents live, the place where my father was raised, and a lease, and that was it.
Now, how much freedom do you have doing that? I mean, doing farming and ranching. I mean, a lot of people think that wow. Generally, you think, oh, that's all they do. They don't have any time, so they have to be on that land doing all that stuff.
Well,
you could pretty much have like 3 to 4 months off to do whatever. Because you were telling me.
No.
No.
If you're not plowing, and if you're harvesting. If you're not harvesting, you're plowing, or you're sowing wheat, or you're putting in a different crop, or during this time of the year, you're feeding cattle, and you're trying to get ready for harvest.
Now, how do you like plan vacations or whatever like that?
Vacation? What the hell's that?
I know, right? No, I mean, going on retrospects, didn't you say you took like a vacation every like October 1st or something like that?
Well, when I was farming full time, I would work Sunday through Friday. I would take the Sabbath off every week, period. And as far as vacation, I never took one. But when I was a kid, we would take vacations with my parents, go to Colorado, Montana, Branson, Missouri, but the work would pile up pretty quick.
You didn't have somebody go in and work it?
No.
While you're gone?
Mainly because my uncle was, he would steal fuel from us, steal tools. When my grandfather died, he stole both of his case tractors with most of the tools. And
so what you're saying is your uncle was a very honest man.
Yeah. He was a drunkard, is what he was.
Yeah, a lot of people when they have like addictions and everything, you really can't.
I think we all have had.
We've had somebody in our family that's done some fucked up shit.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody that I've ever talked to, everybody that I've ever met, has that one family member.
But this is how bad he was. At my grandpa's his half section that he called the North Place. It was he put it into CRP land, which is programmed by the government that they pay you not to farm. Right?
Okay.
And
how does it? Okay. After you're done with that, can you tell us how that actually works? Because I was actually wondering about that. That was one of the questions.
That's but they encourage the native grasses to grow, and we would bail at it or get permission from the government, to swath down the grass and build it up for hay. Well, what my uncle would do is he had the baler, and he had his wife out there taking bales, but not all in one area. A bale here, and here. All right, because it was, we didn't have a contract. It was a verbal agreement that my papa would get a certain amount. Hey, my uncle would get a certain amount. My father would get a certain amount based on the total amount of hay bales that were made. Uncle, in his infinite wisdom, kind of tipped the scales in his favor and was taking a bale here and a bale here, and
he was double dipping.
Yeah, he would lower the total output of bales, but he would get more. his father and brother.
Yeah.
That's pretty low.
We all have family members that they call them the black sheep, but they're really just
Dicks.
Brown puddles.
Brown puddles.
Yeah.
It's called shit piles. It's there. But how does that work when you get your farms to where it doesn't? Basically, the government's paying you. Because I know how it works with like dairy.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they do is they take all that and this is where government cheese came from.
Yeah.
They would have like a surplus of cheese and they would give it out, which is basically all it is Velveeta.
Yeah.
It tastes just fine.
Well, but
how does that actually work out when the government pays you, not the farm? Because I know it was enacted during the Great Depression.
Yeah, my grandfather signed up for it on that 1/2 section, and he just let it grow up, and he was paid not to farm it. He had, but the kicker is you couldn't graze it out either, and what the government was wanting to do was to encourage wildlife like birds and pheasants and all this other stuff to use it as a natural habitat. That's why a lot of bird hunters love the CRP land. So
see, it was my thought, and I didn't know this for certain, so I'm glad that you explained that. But I thought that the government was paying people to reduce the amount of stocks that were on the market, thereby increasing the value.
that could have been
A factor.
a factor as well.
In other words, if it's kind of like saying if you've got 100 fields producing X amount, the price is going to be down here. But if you've only got 10 fields producing the same amount, the price is going to be up here.
Is there any way to get out of that?
When he first signed up for it, it was for a 10-year run, and he could have opted out of it, but he didn't. So
okay,
he
so
was
you just put it in how many? Sorry, folks. It's just basically how long you want to do that.
Yeah, and he actually made more money from those 2 pieces of land by not farming them.
Oh.
So
I've actually heard that from
Okay,
other people
okay.
before.
Doing that, couldn't you lease the land to for hunters? Since you said it was
Yes.
actually okay.
Yeah.
So you're still allowed to profit off that land if you
Yeah.
just figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
You just can't get rid of any of the stuff that's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also had an issue because my grandfather wanted to, or my father was trying to convince his 2 sisters to maybe try to get off that CRP land, but we had a bunch of mesquite trees, and the ASCS office, or what's now the Farm Service Agency, or the FSA, said that we couldn't do anything with them, and they were pretty thick.
Alright.
Because because those mesquite trees were natural. You know, we couldn't spray them, we couldn't chop them down or nothing.
Dynamite.
No, I mean, most of that stuff. I mean,
Mesquite trees are not native to this area. They actually migrated up along with cattle ranchers.
Yeah.
So why anybody would think that mesquite trees?
I hate mesquite trees.
I hate them bastards.
I'm just trying to fathom.
I need to encourage myself on this one. I do not hate. I do not hate. We cannot hate things. I really dislike them.
You can hate something because of the points and everything.
Well,
No, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that because they're a natural, that's not a natural occurrence. I mean, even if you say it's it's not a natural occurrence. Well, I mean, you could have a bird drop a seed out of its ass when it's shitting and everything.
Well, that's how we got the mulberry bush at the house. Back when I was a kid.
We had blackberries over at my uncle's and over by Texarkana.
Yeah. But I'm guessing they didn't know that mesquite. I mean, I didn't know that they were native.
They're native much further south of here. They're not native to this area.
I thought they were. And
but they grow like weed. It's a fucking tree weed. That's all it is.
It's not a tree. It's not a tree. It barely even classifies as a bush. It's a thorny nuisance.
Yeah. But 90% of the water that they draw up is used to actually cool themselves off.
So they're assholes.
Yeah.
It does make good freaking barbecue though.
Yeah, it does. That's the one redeeming quality about mesquite wood.
Yeah.
You can make furniture out of it, but it's very expensive.
Why? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because they grow so slow.
So I tell you how you do it. You just take it and you feed it into the chipper, and then you take the little bitty chips and you push it together to make pressboard out of it.
Probably good.
Then you got mesquite pressboard furniture.
You're probably giving people ideas now.
But the one tree that's worse for thorns is a bodark. Or it's also called Osage orange.
I've heard of that. I hadn't heard of the bodark.
I've never heard of that.
All right. Have you ever seen horse apples? They're fruit about that big, and they're a lime green color.
Yes. Right. Okay. Now.
A bodark tree has thorns literally from the ground to the top. It's covered in. Now mesquite trees have thorns, small ones on the trunk, bigger ones on the branches. Bodark, it's thorns all the way up. Yeah. But they make bowyers, people who make bows, they actually love them because it's very tough wood. Now,
relatively straight growing?
Yeah, it can be. But they make excellent fence posts because once the post cures, it's literally almost impervious to water, bugs, rot.
Sounds a lot like cypress.
Yeah. Over at my grandpa's place, there's a old bodark post that has been there for at least 50, maybe 75 years or so. That I can take my knife and it's gray on the outside. I can scrape off an eighth of an inch and it's vibrant wood. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it hasn't rotted a bit.
Now, on another subject with the cattle and everything, how bad did drunk drivers piss you off?
I never did.
You never had to redo a fence?
No.
Really?
Well, not because of drivers, because of floods.
Oh, okay.
Ornery ass cows that able to get out, or whatever.
So the electric fences, the relatively simple ones that they sell.
Yeah.
Did you use them, and how effective are they?
Yes, and it depends on the animal. What we primarily used was the 12 volt or the 6 volt solar charged boxes. But at the house where I live and where my grandpa lived, we used a charger that you plug into the wall and it will knock your dick in the dirt.
I was going to say.
No, I had a situation with one of those motherfuckers at one point in time, because we were at my grand uncle's farm, and I asked my mom, "Hey, what's this?" It was like, "Don't touch that. It's electrical fence." Well, it was turned off. Someone was like, "No, it's turned off." The only problem with that, as I touched it, oh yeah, it's turned off. They switched it on when I had both my hands. It was like, yeah, Mom, see, it's
well.
Dick move. That's all I'm saying. Dick move.
My dad did something similar to that. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and he had a fence charger.
Don't want that running in the background.
That you.
Now go ahead and take over that. Told you to turn off your shit.
He had a fence charger that you hooked up to a battery. Now we either use a car battery or what he used was a tractor battery.
You know I need alarms for everything.
Go ahead.
He used a tractor battery which was about that long, about that wide, and about this tall.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and this is probably 84 or 5. I was pretty young. He said, go take this tester, which was, it's a plastic thing about that big, and it had 5 lights, and it had a copper loop on the end of it, which you would touch to the wire, but it also had a grounding rod. And I had no idea what it was. It's a wire probably this long that had a steel rod at the end of it that looked like a screwdriver. And I asked my dad, I said, what's this screwdriver, thing on the end of the wire? He said, this is decoration. Yeah. He said, touch that copper tip to the wire and see how many lights are on there. All right. That thing hit me. I didn't know how to cuss back then, but I damn sure tried. And how many lights are on there? I don't know.
The whole entire time you're telling me this, and I'm thinking to myself, I was like, why don't you just use a voltmeter?
Well, we didn't have one.
That's basically what he was using.
Yeah, he was using a voltmeter. I was like, why don't you just use a voltmeter? That'd be more intelligent.
But it's
Yeah, I know. It's basically like one of those plugins to check and see if you have volts.
well, yes and no, because you can't technically check a battery with a voltmeter.
Yeah.
Batteries will have constant voltage even if they're dead.
Oh, I didn't know.
What you actually need resistance in order to check a battery. So you need something that has a little bit of power drain.
Well, we didn't check the battery. We checked the output of the charger.
Ah.
Okay. But using a battery or a tractor battery or a battery for a car for a charger does have its drawbacks. My father was at, this is one of his leases, and I wasn't there. I was probably 9 or 10, and he was checking the battery on the charger, and somehow it blew up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is sulfuric acid.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, not fun.
Yeah, and he was blinded like that. And he said the only thing that saved me was I knew that pasture very well. I knew where the pond was from where I was. He said he walked to the pond, blinded, and splashed some water in his face, and that's what saved his eyesight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one aspect of farming that can be dangerous, and I've personally been kicked multiple times, stepped on, stomped on, tossed in the air.
No thanks.
The worst I ever got was when I was in Abilene. A couple of friends of mine were running in the rodeo, and they decided, hey Dave, you want to try this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm always up for all kinds of stuff. I get up on the bull and bruise and crack 3 of my ribs. And this is when I was in the Air Force, mind you, so I didn't have to worry about the medical expenses on that. But the problem was I was military property.
Yeah.
And they were kind of upset. It's like, what in the hell was in your head for going bull riding? Going bull riding, really?
You mean I need something in there? I thought there was enough space
Yeah, you
between
had-
here to float the Starship Enterprise.
At that time, this is before 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
So they were. You had to ask permission for everything. If you wanted a tattoo, you had to ask. Yeah, if you wanted Marines, they had to ask if they could get married. But
Can I go to the restroom, sir?
basically, it wasn't as that bad, but it was one of those situations where if you did anything wrong, they would try to get rid of you. Then 9/11 happened. It's like, whoa. We need your happy little ass now. You can't go anywhere.
I've also been gored multiple times.
Now you, what?
Gored.
Not
Bored.
fun.
Gored.
Yeah.
I just realized that it took me a little bit.
Okay. The gears are running now.
Yeah. Damn. That
Yeah,
sucks.
I've literally almost died 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
Mainly messing with cattle. All right.
not bad.
we had this one old, here years ago. We had all this fall roundup, and I couldn't take off work, so my dad got 2 high school kids. They're greenhorns, and they let 2 of the bigger bull calves get out. All right. Spring rolls around. I'm able to take off work, and these bull calves are bigger, meaner, and faster, and they remember they actually were able to jump out. So it was me, this high school, 2 high school kids. It was the same ones, and my dad, and he was in the truck, kind of trying to be the overall field commander, and I just didn't, I said, hush. But the smart one of the bulls jumped out. Right, that left the mean one. Yeah, yeah, lucky me. And we were able to get him into an area of the lot that led to the loading lane. All right, and neither one of them boys wanted anything to do with the bull, which he was pretty good size. I mean, he was about 2/3 grown, and so I was trying to force him, or to persuade him gently to go into the lane, and I was not about to get over in there with him. I ain't stupid. So I climbed on top of the gate, which I thought was securely latched, and I got my left leg over in there on the inside part of the gate. I got my right leg braced, right, and I've got a 4.5 foot sorting pole that was that's fiberglass that I'm poking about right here, about right in here with, trying to get him to turn and go on the lane. Well, that kind of pissed him off. So he charged the gate.
So basically, instead of poking the bear, you poked the bull.
Yeah. And it wasn't the first time, damn sure wasn't the last.
I bet.
But, no, that goes along with my theory of, why should I jump out of a perfectly good airplane with a bed sheet tied to my ass?
Yeah.
So, where was the board at?
Hmm?
Where was that one at? Was it in your leg? Or
No, this bull didn't gore me, but because I was poking him, he got kind of pissed off. He charged the gate. I went flying over it. My upper thigh right here rolled over the top of the sucker rod.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, God.
And I had a bruise about that big for months.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, just the thought of it, just
God, it gets better.
Oh, God. Go ahead.
Now, see, to me, this is fun, but that's what I grew up doing. Right?
Yeah. You
So,
ended up growing up doing stupid shit like some of us.
yeah. Well, I was honestly, I was tired.
Basically, you were just living life.
Yeah. So my left side hits the ground, and I don't know if it's the Holy Spirit or the hand of God, but I felt the urge to stay put. Like, okay, I'll stay put. And I thought, all right, he'll have to jump over me because the gate's open, and hopefully he won't step on me. So I see his front hooves about where your feet are, right? Because he jumped over me, saw the hooves hit the ground. I'm thinking, all right, where's the back hooves? Wham! Right there in my back. And it didn't bruise, it just kind of added insult to injury.
Yeah.
And he goes out, but he's still in the lot. I get up, I'm madder than hell. And I dust myself off. And I'm, as I said, pretty pissed off. And these kids, they're 17. Their jaws are down here like, dude, are you alright? Get that son of a bitch back in its goddamn lot. I'm tired of fucking with him. So we eventually got him up. But the other bull that jumped out, we had to call an actual cowboy with horses and dogs. And he wasn't fully grown yet. And it took 2 horses and about 4 dogs to get him up. And I didn't see them load it because I was taking a load of cattle back to the house. But from what I was told, this bull was so riled up that when they were trying to load him up, he pretty much tore up his 16-foot gooseneck trailer, and he lifted up the gooseneck, the back end up about this tall,
That doesn't surprise
using
me.
his neck.
No, it doesn't surprise me. I watched a video of the Spain's running of the bulls, and
But see,
a car alarm went off, and that bull gorged the holy hell. I mean, first was the tire, then was half front of the vehicle, then it was the other half of the front of the vehicle.
But see, those bulls are bred for aggression. They're bred to fight.
Yeah.
And when you do, they're wild, or they're wild cattle. Now, I don't mean that they're wild animals. They are, but I'm talking about they're crazy, right? And with wild,
Because they're more or less for bullfighting and
Yeah.
everything else.
but with the wild cattle, there's two types. There's a type that they want to get as far away from you as possible. Doesn't matter if it's in a pasture or in a lot. They're pain in the ass to deal with, but they can be dealt with. Then there's type 2. They're gonna try to kill you. I've dealt with both. I almost got killed by the second type.
Oh, what happened with that one?
I told you.
Oh, the okay, yeah. So I'm trying to think of another.
And that's with dealing with that heifer that I told you about.
Yeah.
That's literally that's one. Well, hang on. If that was one of the two instances dealing with cattle that I came close to dying.
Now, did you go to college for agriculture? What was
No.
what was that like? Because my daughter does. Cause she lives in South Dakota, and she was telling me, I was like, I asked her, it's like, what are you learning in school? It's like, well, we're learning science, math, agriculture. It's like agriculture,
Yeah.
but most of South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, they all have farms and everything. So it seems you're
Yeah.
right.
Well,
So.
Cameron does too, and but when I was going to college, I couldn't stand farming at all. I was 19, thought I knew everything, and
No. At 19, you know everything.
but actually, my first major was chemistry, and Chem 2 whooped my ass. I was like, that's none of this. But I settled on because I was passionate about the law, criminal justice, and
everybody around town that I've talked to about college has always at least said they took in criminal law for some reason.
yeah.
I mean, I can understand because of the job field that me and you went to when we worked in corrections. But every person I've talked to, they started out doing criminal law for some reason.
Yeah. Well, one of my professors was Karen Youngblood, and she was a former DA for Comanche County, and she transferred into the criminal defense field because of corruption. And they gave her a unique perspective on both aspects of prosecution and defense.
Yeah, there was a lady up in Chicago that did the same thing.
Yeah.
She went. She was a cop, and she got her law degree, and she ended up doing defense instead of prosecution.
Now, she wanted us to call her Professor Youngblood, even though she had a PhD. So, Professor Youngblood was by far the toughest teacher I've ever had.
Really?
One of the best teachers.
Usually, tough teachers are usually the best ones.
Yeah. But she wanted you to not just know the law, but you had to understand it. That's a whole different ball of wax right there.
Yeah, that was the same thing that we were talking about yesterday. Last episode was the whole factor of there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah. And the only way to actually pass her classes was to get in groups. And I was, according to my student advisor, I was the first student to ever take her criminal law and civil procedures class in the same semester and get an A in the criminal and a B in the civil.
Oh wow! Because what was the difference between the two?
Criminal law is
Criminals, yeah.
Yeah, civil is
Are you dealing with civil
court cases. Yeah, lawsuits, stuff like that.
Basically, the difference between criminal and civil is criminal law is when your prosecutor is going to take you in before the judge and the possible jury, and they're going to decide whether or not you're guilty of committing a crime. Whereas civil is a business is suing you for royalties on something, or
Like what
another
happened
person
with
is,
Joe J.
or another person is suing you for
He got-
damages to their property.
Yeah, like what happened with Joe J. He ended up not getting charged for murder, but he ended up getting charged for loss of life. Or
Well, he
something.
was acquitted of murder, but he was held civilly responsible for his wife's death.
Yeah.
So, but she told me during my graduation, if you need a referral for a law college, ask me. You have been honestly my best student I've ever had.
Why didn't you pursue that?
I don't know. Honestly, back then, I think it was because of my speech impediment, and it's not as bad as it has been.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, like I already said earlier today when we were off camera, what I was trying to talk about. There's certain words I just can't say.
Yeah.
Like, I literally can't say it. The power lines with the distribution, that I can't say that word. I have to like sound out each and every word of that, and it causes so much havoc because I get so frustrated trying to say that word. It's in my head. I can hear it in my head, and I just can't say it.
That's because you're thinking about it too much. And what I've learned is, if I think about what I'm going to say, I can't say it. Or I can say it, but not very fluently, or not very eloquently.
Okay.
See, there's the major problem a lot of people run into though.
Yeah.
They speak without thinking, and because they speak without thinking, they sound like a total dumbass.
Yeah. Well, what I've learned how to do, like in preparation for this, is I make a mental outline of not everything I want to say, but kind of highlights.
Yeah, well, that's what we were going to go for first when we started this. I mean, we had the voice one because we didn't know if we wanted to go with camera or we just go with the full podcast. I think the one that's on YouTube right now is the one that we just went. Okay, we just need to go with it.
Yeah.
We're just start talking. I had a long list of stuff I was going to say beforehand on the subject and everything that we're doing because we're doing. What was it? Apocalypse.
Yeah,
But I had this laundry list of stuff that I was going to say, and it took me about 4 or 5 tries to get that down.
Yeah,
and I just said, you know what?
all the apocalypse scenarios that had never happened.
Yeah, and it sounded after I got it down pat because I just started going over. After I got it down pat, I got it, and then I was like, this sounds ridiculous. No one talks like that.
Yeah.
Everything has to go with the flow, go with the movement, and work out with that.
Yeah. When I was taking my speech class, that was not fun. I mean, I can write a story very easily,
but telling the story is fucking.
Well, it was difficult for me because I had cards, right, and pretty much I had to read what was on the cards. But if I just get up in front of a crowd of people and just start talking, I can do it all day long, if it's organic.
Yeah.
No, I understand that because okay, when I actually do read, my buddy Jason, someone was watching me like read over the same topic I was supposed to read because in class you're supposed to get up and read on certain things.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was doing that, but I was going over and over and over and over and over again. And someone asked me, I was like, why is he doing that? Oh, he's memorizing it.
Yeah.
It's like, no one can memorize that. It's 3 paragraphs. No, that's how he does it.
Well,
But that's literally the only way I could actually figure it out. That's the only. I would memorize it. I would do it line by line, and I didn't have to read it all.
Mine was always momentary memorization. In other words, I would get up there and I would have read like the first paragraph and committed that to my memory, and then I could speak the first paragraph while I'm reading the second paragraph.
Well, see, I was also in a fraternity, Sigma Tau Gamma, with the Gamma Rho chapter, and each pledge, the proper word is associate with the pledges, and each member had to memorize the creed. All right, I'm not gonna say what it is. But it was, I think, 5 or 6 paragraphs, and we had to memorize it verbatim. And I could almost still.
Well, it's the same thing with me. I mean, any kind of military branch can sing their military branch song.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Every morning, that's what we would sing. We would sing, and to this day, it's been about 16 years. No, it's been 20 years. But it's been 20 years since I've seen that song. But if I hear like a note of it, boom, I can tell you the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
But I guess that's it for us for today. Michael went to go do some other stuff. We had Michael Moffat with us, Steve Braggs?
Stephen
Bags. And I'm David Dickerman, and thank you for watching.